Welcome back to the cosmic journey through the Zodiac. Today's exploration takes us deep into the fiery world of Aries. Not just any aspect of the ram's personality, but perhaps one of the most misunderstood, their profound love for solitude. While Aries individuals are often portrayed as the extroverted, party-loving, center of attention fire signs, there exists a hidden dimension to their character that few truly understand. Picture this: your Aries friend, who normally dominates every conversation, leads every adventure, and radiates enough energy to power a small city, suddenly goes completely off the radar. No calls returned, social media silent, seemingly vanished into thin air. Many mistake this for anger or upset, but the truth is far more fascinating. These disappearing acts are actually sacred rituals for the Aries soul, deliberate retreats that fuel their legendary vitality. The Zodiac's fierce ram, symbolized by those powerful curved horns and ruled by warrior planet Mars, harbors a secret that contradicts their public image. Behind that bold exterior and fearless approach to life lies a person who periodically craves complete isolation. It's this very paradox that makes Aries one of the most complex signs in the astrological wheel. Think about the traditional Aries traits we all recognize: the trailblazing pioneer, the fearless competitor, the passionate leader charging ahead without hesitation. These characteristics demand tremendous energy, unwavering confidence, and constant decision-making. Every moment an Aries spends in the spotlight, they're operating at maximum capacity, giving everything they have to maintain that powerful presence. This intensity simply cannot be sustained indefinitely without a counterbalance. What if I told you that these periods of withdrawal aren't signs of weakness, but rather sophisticated self-preservation? The same strategic thinking that makes Aries formidable in battle, whether literal or metaphorical, extends to how they manage their energy. They instinctively understand something many of us struggle to accept. The true strength comes from knowing when to retreat and regroup. Throughout history, the greatest military minds, those embodiments of Aries energy, have recognized the tactical advantage of strategic withdrawal. From Sun Tzu to Napoleon, these strategists understood that pulling back at the right moment isn't surrender. It's ensuring victory in the larger campaign. Your Aries friend intuitively applies this ancient wisdom to their personal life, disappearing not because they're defeated, but because they're preparing for their next conquest. The ram's relationship with solitude goes beyond mere recharging. It's a multifaceted practice that serves their ambitious nature in surprising ways. These moments alone function as their secret laboratory, where they experiment with new ideas, refine their approaches, and reinvent themselves far from judgmental eyes. It's in these private chambers that the magic of Aries innovation truly happens. This pattern reveals something profound about Aries that casual observers miss. Beneath their seemingly impulsive nature lies a surprisingly thoughtful, self-aware individual who recognizes their limitations and respects their own boundaries. While they may not openly discuss this need for alone time, vulnerability isn't exactly an Aries' favorite conversation topic. It remains essential to their well-being. As we journey through the 12 fascinating reasons Aries individuals cherish their solitude, you might recognize patterns in yourself or the Aries people in your life. This understanding creates deeper connections and helps bridge the gap between what we think we know about this sign and their authentic experience. If you're already intrigued by this glimpse behind the Aries mask, hit that subscribe button to continue this astrological journey with Secret of the Zodiac, and tap the like button to fuel more revelations about the Zodiac's most misunderstood qualities. Now let's dive into the first 3 specific reasons why these fiery individuals retreat from the world into the sanctuary of solitude. Reason number 1: unlimited speed, zero delays. The Aries spirit moves at a pace most other signs find exhausting even to witness. While the world operates on conventional timelines, the ram's internal clock runs significantly faster, their minds racing through possibilities, bodies itching for action, and patience wearing thinner with each passing second of inactivity. In group settings, this creates a fundamental mismatch that breeds frustration. The Aries individual finds themselves constantly pulling back on their natural tempo, making adjustments that feel like driving a sports car permanently stuck in first gear. Watch an Aries when they believe no one is looking. Fingers drumming rapidly, foot tapping an invisible accelerator, eyes darting ahead to the next objective before completing the current one. This isn't anxious energy. It's pure, undiluted Aries velocity straining against social constraints. When alone, they finally release this compressed energy, moving through tasks, spaces, and ideas at their natural breakneck speed, without a single apology or explanation. A typical morning for an Aries alone might include reorganizing an entire kitchen, drafting business plans for 2 separate ventures, completing a high-intensity workout, and researching 3 new potential hobbies, all before most people have finished their first cup of coffee. This isn't showing off. It's simply their default operating system, finally running without external governors limiting their processing speed. The liberation they feel when no one asks them to slow down, take it easy, or be more methodical creates a profound sense of alignment with their authentic self. Alone, they don't have to translate their lightning-quick thought processes into palatable explanations for others, or wait while someone deliberates over a decision they made instinctively in seconds. This freedom from perpetual translation and deceleration feels like finally breathing fresh air after being underwater. Reason number 2, strategic recharging. Contrary to popular belief, Aries' energy, while formidable, isn't infinite. These fire sign warriors burn with an intensity that would consume most people, channeling Mars's raw power into everything they do. Each conversation, each project, each interaction receiving their full, undivided force. This spectacular display of vitality comes with hidden costs invisible to casual observers. Behind closed doors, Aries experiences energy ebbs that they carefully conceal from public view. Their periods of solitude serve as sophisticated recharging stations where they replenish their legendary reserves before the next battle or adventure. Unlike some signs who recharge through social interaction, Aries requires complete autonomy to rebuild their energy stores effectively. Consider the Aries approach to social events. They arrive as the embodiment of dynamism, often the most engaging, charismatic presence in any room. They lead conversations, initiate activities, and create momentum that carries entire gatherings. This performance, though natural to them, draws from their core energy in ways few understand. After such expenditures, they require proportional isolation to restore balance. This recharging process isn't passive. Even in solitude, Aries remains active, but crucially, they're active on their own terms. They might engage in intense physical exercise, immerse themselves in competitive games, or tackle challenging projects. The critical difference is that all this activity serves their internal system rather than being directed outward for others' benefit. It's energy invested rather than energy expended, a distinction that makes all the difference in their recovery process. The most perceptive Aries individuals develop sophisticated relationships with their energy cycles, learning to anticipate when they'll need to withdraw before reaching complete depletion. This preemptive retreating represents not weakness, but advanced self-awareness. A warrior knowing exactly when to leave the battlefield to ensure long-term victory. Reason number 3, space for bold innovation. The Aries mind generates ideas at an astonishing rate. Radical concepts, unconventional approaches, and revolutionary possibilities constantly bubble up from their subconscious. In collaborative environments, these raw inspirations often undergo dilution as the Aries adjusts them to meet others' comfort levels or navigates group decision-making processes that inevitably compromise their original vision. Solitude creates the perfect laboratory for Aries innovation, a space where their boldest concepts can develop without premature criticism or the need for committee approval. Here, they experiment with approaches that others might immediately dismiss as too risky, too ambitious, or too unconventional. Free from external resistance, their natural pioneering spirit flourishes, Consider how many world-changing innovations throughout history emerged not from careful consensus, but from singular, determined minds willing to pursue paths others couldn't yet envision. This is the Aries in their element, seeing possibilities beyond conventional boundaries and having the courage to explore them fully. When alone, their creative process accelerates exponentially. Ideas flow uninterrupted, each building upon the last, without the momentum-killing pauses necessary to explain, justify, or defend their thinking to others. This unbroken creative flow produces breakthroughs that would never emerge in collaborative settings where each step requires external validation. For Aries, this unfettered creative space isn't a luxury. It's essential to their identity as innovators and pioneers. Their need to occasionally disappear into their private workshop isn't selfishness, but rather a commitment to bringing their most valuable contributions to the world. The ideas that emerge from these solitary periods often become the very innovations they later champion in public, leading others toward new possibilities with their characteristic enthusiasm. The relationship between Aries and solitude in this creative context reveals the depth beneath their seemingly impulsive nature. Their moments alone aren't random withdrawals, but deliberate incubation periods where their most significant contributions take shape, a sophisticated approach to innovation that balances individual genius with eventual public leadership. As we explore the next set of reasons why Aries treasures their alone time, we'll discover even more layers to their complex relationship with solitude, revealing how these periods of withdrawal serve their competitive nature and authentic self-expression. Reason number 4, competitive self-improvement. The Aries' competitive spirit burns brightest not in public arenas, but in the private battlegrounds of their own making. While their rivalrous nature is well documented, few understand that their most significant competition exists within, a perpetual race against yesterday's version of themselves that drives their relentless evolution. Solitude provides the perfect training ground for this internal contest, free from external metrics or the complications of competing against others. When alone, Aries establishes personal benchmarks that often exceed conventional standards. They set almost impossible goals, then attack them with characteristic fervor, pushing their limits in physical training, skill development, or intellectual pursuits. A 3-mile run becomes 4, then 5. A project completed in 2 hours must next be finished in 90 minutes. This isn't mere self-improvement. It's a sophisticated form of self-competition, where they simultaneously play both challenger and champion. This internal gymnasium operates on different principles than social competition. There's no audience to impress, no external validation to seek, no performances to maintain. The Aries alone tracks their progress with brutal honesty, acknowledging weaknesses that they might never reveal publicly. This raw self-assessment creates the foundation for genuine growth that wouldn't be possible if they maintained their usual confident exterior. The solitary Aries engages in deliberate practice, the focused, systematic training that experts across domains use to achieve mastery. They identify specific elements needing improvement, isolate them for concentrated work, and measure progress with precision. Whether developing a physical skill, refining a creative technique, or expanding intellectual capacity, they approach self-improvement with the strategic mindset of a master tactician. This private training regimen explains why Aries individuals sometimes emerge from periods of isolation, displaying startling improvements or entirely new capabilities. The transformation that others perceive as sudden actually represents the culmination of intensive, solitary effort, the visible results of invisible work. This pattern reveals the sophisticated relationship Aries maintains with their own development, using solitude not as escape, but as their most powerful tool for self-mastery. Reason number 5, freedom from explaining their actions. The Aries decision-making process operates at speeds that leave most other signs bewildered. Their characteristic impulsivity isn't thoughtless reaction, but rather instantaneous integration of information that bypasses the lengthy deliberation others require. This rapid-fire cognitive style creates a persistent communication burden. The exhausting task of explaining decisions that feel self-evident to them but appear reckless to observers. In solitude, this burden evaporates. When the inspiration strikes at midnight to rearrange their living space, launch a new project, or change direction entirely, they act without the friction of justification. No explaining why the furniture must be moved now, why the previous plan no longer serves, or why intuition overruled conventional wisdom. This liberation from the constant demand for explanation preserves both energy and momentum. The Aries alone doesn't waste precious mental bandwidth translating intuitive understanding into rational explanations that others can comprehend. This cognitive efficiency allows them to maintain their natural thought patterns, the lightning connections, intuitive leaps, and immediate recognitions that constitute their distinctive intelligence. Free from the requirement to make their process accessible to others, their thinking accelerates to its natural velocity. This freedom extends beyond practical decisions to their emotional landscape as well. Aries typically processes feelings with the same rapidity as thoughts, moving through emotional states that others might dwell in for days or weeks. When alone, they needn't justify this accelerated emotional processing or pretend to linger in feelings they've already resolved. This emotional authenticity represents another layer of liberation that solitude provides. The sophistication in this aspect of Aries' solitude lies in their recognition, often unconscious, that explanation drains the very energy needed for action. By periodically removing this requirement through strategic withdrawal, they preserve their primary resource, the vital force that powers their signature boldness and initiative. This isn't avoiding accountability, but rather ensuring their distinctive gifts remain uncompromised by the weight of constant translation. Reason number 6, unfiltered self-expression. Perhaps the most profound freedom solitude offers Aries is the space for complete, unmoderated self-expression. Despite their reputation for bluntness, even the most forthright Aries regularly modulates their natural intensity to accommodate social norms and others' comfort levels. This constant self-regulation, while necessary for collective harmony, creates a subtle but persistent disconnection from their authentic expression. Behind closed doors, this filtration system dissolves. Volume restrictions lift. They speak, laugh, or express frustration at their natural decibel level. Movement limitations disappear. They gesture broadly, pace energetically, or dance with abandoned physicality. Emotional restraints fall away. They experience and express feelings at their true magnitude without diminishing their significance to make others comfortable. Watch an Aries who believes they're completely alone. Their movements become more expansive, their facial expressions more dramatic, their vocal range wider. This isn't performance, but rather the absence of performance, the natural state of a being designed for intensity, finally expressing without constraint. The relief this authentic expression provides cannot be overstated. It releases accumulated tension from constant self-moderation. For many Aries, creative expression flourishes uniquely in solitude. Their writing becomes more daring, their music more experimental, their art more innovative when created without consideration of audience reaction. Some keep private collections of work too raw or unconventional for public sharing. Creative expressions that serve not career advancement or social approval, but pure self-connection. The freedom to fail spectacularly without witnesses represents another dimension of this unfiltered expression. Innovation requires risk, and risk inevitably includes failure. Alone, Aries can attempt the impossible, fall short dramatically, adjust their approach, and try again without the complication of managing others' perceptions. This creates a safe laboratory for their boldest experiments across all domains of life. Perhaps most significantly, solitude allows them to temporarily set aside the leadership mantle they typically wear. The Aries individual frequently finds themselves in charge, directing projects, guiding conversations, making crucial decisions that affect others. This responsibility, while natural to them, requires constant awareness of impact and outcomes. Alone, they enjoy the profound relief of being responsible solely for themselves, a simplification that allows deeper connection with their essential nature. This unfiltered self-expression reveals something surprising about Aries. Beneath their social boldness lies an even more intense authentic self that they consciously moderate in company. Their periods of solitude aren't withdrawals from authenticity, but rather returns to it, reconnections with a core identity too powerful for continuous social expression. This sophisticated relationship with their own intensity demonstrates a self-awareness that contradicts stereotypes of Aries as merely impulsive or unreflective. As we continue exploring the complex relationship between Aries and solitude, we'll discover how these periods of isolation provide them with environmental control, strategic advantage, and reinforcement of their fundamental independence. Reason number 7, control of their environment. The Aries' relationship with their physical environment extends far beyond mere preference. It represents a fundamental extension of their identity and autonomy. While all signs appreciate comfortable surroundings, for Aries, environmental control satisfies a deeper psychological need, directly connected to their ruling planet, Mars's drive for dominion and command. In shared spaces, even with beloved companions, a subtle tension persists as they navigate compromise over elements they instinctively feel should align with their will. Solitude transforms their surroundings into a perfect reflection of their internal state, a synchronized external reality that responds immediately to their changing needs and impulses. Temperature adjusts precisely to their preference without negotiation. Music shifts volume, genre, or disappears entirely according to their momentary desire. Physical objects arrange themselves in configurations that make intuitive sense to their specific mental patterns. This environmental responsiveness creates a sense of flow and alignment impossible to achieve when accommodating others. The Aries alone moves through spaces with distinctive physicality, stretching across furniture designed for multiple people, spreading projects across entire tables, adjusting lighting to highlight exactly what captures their attention. Their natural expansiveness, frequently contained in shared environments, finally expresses without constraint. This physical liberation creates a bodily relief that complements their mental and emotional freedom. Time itself falls under their dominion in solitude. The Aries' relationship with scheduling reveals another layer of their control needs. They experience imposed timetables as subtle but persistent constraints on their autonomy. Alone, they establish rhythms that match their natural energy cycles rather than social conventions. They might work intensively for 6 hours without breaks, eat when hunger rather than clocks dictate, or sleep in patterns that ignore standard night-day divisions. This temporal sovereignty creates a profound sense of living in alignment with their authentic nature. For the Aries who has developed sophisticated self-awareness, this environmental control extends to creating different zones that serve various aspects of their personality. The warrior archetype finds expression in spaces designed for physical training or competitive activities. The pioneer spirit manifests in areas dedicated to learning and exploration. The leader identity emerges in command centers, where they organize and direct their ventures. This deliberate environmental design supports the multifaceted nature of the Aries personality more effectively than any shared space could. The depth of this environmental connection explains why Aries individuals often react strongly to uninvited changes in their personal spaces. What others might view as minor adjustments, they experience as disruptions to carefully calibrated external systems that support their internal functioning. Their periodic need for complete environmental control isn't pettiness, but rather recognition of the intimate relationship between their surroundings and their effectiveness. Reason number 8, mental battlefield training behind the Aries. Reputation for action lies a sophisticated strategic mind that requires optimal conditions for its highest functioning. Solitude provides the ideal environment for what might be called their mental battlefield training. The concentrated thought exercises, where they develop strategies, anticipate obstacles, and prepare for challenges across all domains of life. This cognitive practice remains largely invisible to others, who primarily witness the resulting action rather than the preparatory thinking. In quiet isolation, Aries engages in elaborate mental rehearsals that would appear strikingly similar to the practices of elite military strategists or champion athletes. They visualize upcoming situations with extraordinary detail, playing through multiple scenarios, anticipating various responses, and preparing contingency plans for unexpected developments. This isn't anxiety or overthinking, but rather the natural expression of their Mars-ruled tactical intelligence preparing for optimal performance. The quality of this strategic thinking requires conditions rarely available in social settings: deep concentration without interruption, freedom from external input that might prematurely influence developing plans, space for intuitive insights that emerge only in cognitive stillness, the ability to follow conceptual threads through complex patterns without the need to articulate them prematurely. These conditions exist almost exclusively in solitude. Watch an Aries pacing their private space, muttering occasionally, gesturing to invisible participants. They aren't disconnected from reality, but rather engaged in sophisticated simulation. These solitary rehearsals explain the confidence with which they later execute plans or handle challenging interactions. What appears as instinctive brilliance in the moment often represents the culmination of extensive private preparation, another example of the invisible work that powers their visible success. This mental training extends beyond specific scenarios to broader strategic development. Alone, they study the patterns of past successes and failures, extracting principles that form their evolving tactical philosophy. They consume information from diverse sources: biographies of great leaders, analyses of historic battles, literal or metaphorical, emerging research in their fields of interest, synthesizing insights that might appear disconnected to others but form coherent strategic frameworks in their integrative thinking. The sophisticated relationship between Aries and solitude in this context reveals them as more thoughtful and deliberate than their impulsive reputation suggests. Their periods of withdrawal don't represent retreat from challenges, but rather dedicated preparation for more effective engagement, another example of the paradoxical wisdom that guides their approach to being their most powerful selves. Reason number 9, independence reinforcement. At the core of Aries' identity lies an unshakable belief in self-sufficiency, a fundamental conviction that they possess everything necessary for survival and success within themselves. This isn't mere self-confidence, but rather a defining philosophical position that shapes their approach to all relationships and endeavors. Periodic solitude serves as both practical test and symbolic affirmation of this central belief. Each successful period alone functions as evidence confirming their self-sufficiency hypothesis. They navigate challenges without assistance, generate solutions from internal resources, and meet their own emotional needs through self-regulation. These experiences create a reinforcement loop that strengthens their independence identity, each solitary accomplishment becoming proof of their core belief system's validity. This independence reinforcement operates at multiple levels simultaneously. Practically, they develop and maintain skills that many outsource to others, from basic self-care to complex problem-solving across diverse domains. Emotionally, they cultivate self-soothing capabilities that reduce dependency on external validation or comfort. Cognitively, they trust their judgment without requiring consensus or approval. This multidimensional self-sufficiency creates a distinctive form of security unavailable through any external guarantee. For Aries, this independence isn't primarily about isolation, but rather about choice, the freedom to engage with others from a position of genuine option rather than necessity. Their periods alone ensure that connections with others remain voluntary associations between self-contained individuals rather than dependency relationships. This distinction proves crucial to how they conceptualize healthy attachment, as enhancement rather than requirement. The sophisticated aspect of this independence reinforcement lies in its paradoxical effect on their capacity for connection. By regularly confirming their ability to stand entirely alone, Aries develops the security to engage more authentically with others when they choose to. Their social interactions, following periods of solitude, often display greater generosity and presence precisely because these engagements come from abundance rather than need. This creates a counterintuitive pattern where temporary separation enhances subsequent connection. This independence reinforcement reveals perhaps the most fundamental reason Aries requires solitude. It continually reaffirms their core identity as self-sufficient beings capable of generating their own power, purpose, in sense, purpose, and direction. This isn't rejection of interdependence, but rather establishment of the secure foundation from which healthy interdependence becomes possible. Their periodic withdrawals serve not as escapes from connection, but as preparations for more authentic engagement. As we continue our exploration into the final reasons Aries treasures solitude, we'll discover the emotional dimensions of their relationship with alone time, how these periods serve their distinctive emotional processing style, and provide essential space for vulnerability that their warrior exterior rarely reveals. Reason number 10, emotional reset button. The Aries emotional landscape operates on principles that often confound those with different processing styles. Unlike water signs who might dwell in emotional states for extended periods, exploring their depths and nuances, Aries experiences emotions with characteristic intensity, but processes them with surprising speed. This accelerated emotional metabolism requires specific conditions rarely available in social contexts, conditions that solitude provides perfectly. In isolation, Aries accesses what might be called their emotional reset button, a psychological mechanism that allows complete processing and release without the complications introduced by others' involvement. Frustrations that might linger in social settings resolve quickly when they can express and release without managing others' reactions. Excitement finds appropriate channels without concern for appearing excessive. Disappointment transforms into renewed determination without the weight of external sympathy that might inadvertently extend the feeling. This reset function operates through distinctive Aries methods that would appear unusual to many observers. Physical movement plays a crucial role. Intense exercise, rhythmic activities, or even simple pacing helps metabolize emotional energy that might otherwise remain trapped. Vocalization without social constraints, speaking thoughts aloud, occasional shouting, or even singing creates external pathways for internal states. Direct action addressing the emotion source immediately rather than extended reflection transforms feelings into constructive outcome. The efficiency of this emotional processing reveals another layer of the Aries relationship with time and energy. They instinctively recognize that prolonged emotional states consume resources better directed toward forward movement. Their solitary reset periods aren't emotional avoidance, but rather strategic resource management, clearing the system of residual feelings that might otherwise create drag on their momentum. This pragmatic approach to emotional health demonstrates sophisticated self-awareness beneath their action-oriented exterior. For Aries individuals who have developed psychological maturity, these reset periods include conscious integration of emotional lessons before release. Alone, they briefly examine what triggered particular feelings, extract useful information about their values and boundaries, and incorporate these insights into future approaches. This reflective component, often invisible to others who primarily witness their action phase, reveals the thoughtfulness underlying their seemingly impulsive responses. The emotional reset button that solitude provides explains why Aries often emerges from periods alone with noticeably renewed energy and clarity. The internal landscape has been efficiently cleared, processed, and reorganized, creating the clean slate they instinctively seek for optimal functioning. This pattern demonstrates their intuitive understanding of emotional hygiene as prerequisite for the forward momentum that defines their approach to life. Reason number 11, undiluted adventure. The Aries spirit contains an adventurous essence that transcends their physical pursuits or external achievements, an inherent drive toward exploration, novelty, and the exhilaration of discovering untraveled territory in any domain. While they enthusiastically share adventures with compatible companions, even the most aligned partnerships inevitably involve some degree of compromise that dilutes the pure adventure experience they occasionally crave. solitude creates space for what might be called undiluted adventure. Experiences designed precisely to their specifications, without adjustments for others' comfort levels, skill limitations, or differing risk tolerances. These solo expeditions, whether literal journeys or metaphorical explorations, follow pathways determined entirely by their momentary impulses and intuitive navigation, rather than predetermined routes accessible to all. The resulting experiences possess a distinctive quality impossible to replicate in shared adventures. Watch an Aries embarking on a solitary adventure. Their movements display characteristic spontaneity as they follow emerging interests rather than fixed itineraries. A hike through familiar woods suddenly becomes an off-trail exploration when something catches their attention. A creative project evolves in unexpected directions as they follow intuitive pulls rather than predefined plans. A city walk transforms into urban exploration as curiosity leads them through unmarked doors or up hidden staircases. This responsiveness to immediate inspiration creates experiences with a particular aliveness. The intensity level of solitary Aries adventures reveals another dimension of their undiluted quality. Without adjusting the challenge to accommodate others' thresholds, they can pursue experiences calibrated precisely to their own edge, that optimal point where challenge meets capability to create the psychological state of flow. Too easy generates boredom. Too difficult produces anxiety. Precisely matched creates transcendent engagement. This perfect calibration rarely occurs in shared experiences where compromise naturally moderates intensity. Perhaps most significantly, solo adventures allow full immersion without the social awareness that inevitably accompanies shared experiences. Even in the most absorbing group activities, a portion of Aries' attention remains allocated to tracking others' experiences, assessing their enjoyment, and maintaining connection. Alone, this attentional reserve becomes available for deeper engagement with the adventure itself, creating the complete absorption they occasionally require for full satisfaction. The sophisticated aspect of this relationship with solitary adventure lies in how it complements rather than replaces shared experiences. By occasionally accessing these undiluted adventures, Aries satisfies their need for pure, self-directed exploration, which paradoxically enhances their capacity to enjoy the different but equally valuable qualities of shared journeys. This pattern demonstrates their intuitive balancing of autonomous and collaborative experiences for optimal fulfillment across their adventurous life. Reason number 12, secret vulnerability time. Beneath the confident exterior that Aries presents to the world lies a more complex interior landscape that includes vulnerabilities, uncertainties, and tender aspects rarely revealed publicly. This isn't deception, but rather appropriate boundary management for a sign whose archetypal role often involves leadership, protection, and strength for others. Solitude provides essential space for what might be called secret vulnerability time, periods where they can temporarily set aside the armor that their social roles require. In these private moments, Aries acknowledges doubts that would undermine others' confidence in their leadership if expressed publicly. They examine insecurities about decisions made and paths chosen. They process fears about future challenges without needing to maintain the unwavering certainty their positions often demand. This honest self-assessment, impossible under observing eyes, creates the foundation for authentic confidence rather than performative bravado. The Aries relationship with vulnerability reveals sophisticated emotional intelligence beneath their forthright exterior. They instinctively recognize that vulnerability serves different functions in different contexts, that private acknowledgement strengthens while public display potentially weakens, particularly in roles requiring others' trust in their capability. Their solitary vulnerability practice demonstrates nuanced understanding of emotional expression's contextual nature rather than simple avoidance. For many Aries, these vulnerability periods include specific rituals that would surprise those who know only their public persona. Some maintain journals documenting uncertainties and struggles never verbally expressed. Others engage in contemplative practices, exploring their deeper motivations and fears. Some create art expressing emotional complexities absent from their daily presentation. These private practices create essential integration between their external strength and internal experience. The psychological sophistication in this aspect of Aries' solitude lies in their recognition, often intuitive rather than articulated, that periodic vulnerability isn't weakness, but rather necessary maintenance of the strengths they value. Like a warrior who must occasionally remove armor to tend wounds and restore mobility, they understand that continuous invulnerability ultimately creates brittleness rather than durability. Their private vulnerability periods serve not as escapes from strength, but as renewals of its authentic foundation. This final reason, Aries treasures solitude, perhaps most powerfully contradicts superficial understandings of their nature. Behind the impulsive, confident, action-oriented characteristics visible to all lies a reflective dimension engaged in continuous self-assessment and renewal. Their periods alone aren't merely physical separations, but rather sacred practices that maintain the integration between their external power and internal truths, the alignment that allows their characteristic boldness to emerge from authentic rather than performative sources. The 12 reasons we've explored reveal the sophisticated relationship between Aries and solitude, a relationship far more complex than mere preference or occasional need. These periods alone serve essential functions across physical, emotional, creative, and psychological dimensions of their multifaceted nature. Understanding this relationship transforms our perception of their occasional withdrawals from concerning disappearances to recognized necessities, respecting the wisdom in their intuitive self-care rather than misinterpreting their temporary absence. For those who love an Aries, this understanding creates opportunity for supporting rather than resisting their solitude needs. For Aries individuals themselves, recognizing these patterns provides language for explaining what they instinctively seek and validation for honoring these essential requirements. Through this deeper understanding, we appreciate the complex interplay between connection and autonomy that allows Aries to bring their full, magnificent energy to both their independent pursuits and their cherished relationships. Throughout our deep exploration of the Aries spirit, we've uncovered 12 fascinating dimensions that explain why these fiery individuals treasure their time alone. Far from contradicting their social nature, this need for solitude actually enhances their ability to show up powerfully in the world. The Ram's relationship with alone time reveals a sophisticated self-awareness that belies their reputation for simple impulsivity. We discovered how solitude allows Aries to move at their naturally accelerated pace without constantly adjusting to others' slower rhythms. We saw how these strategic warriors use private time to replenish the extraordinary energy reserves they expend so generously in social settings. We explored the creative laboratory that solitude provides, a space where their boldest innovations can develop without premature compromise or committee approval. The competitive drive that defines Aries finds unique expression in solitude, where they engage in sophisticated self-improvement practices, constantly competing against previous versions of themselves rather than external opponents. We recognized how being alone liberates them from the exhausting task of explaining decisions that feel intuitive to them but appear impulsive to others. We witnessed how solitude creates space for unfiltered self-expression, allowing their natural intensity to flow without the moderation required in social contexts. Our journey revealed how environmental control satisfies their ruling planet, Mars's need for dominion, creating surroundings perfectly aligned with their internal state. We explored their mental battlefield training, the sophisticated strategic thinking they develop in quiet isolation, preparing for challenges across all domains of life. We saw how solitude reinforces their core independence, validating their fundamental belief in self-sufficiency. In our final revelations, we discovered how alone time serves as an emotional reset button, allowing their distinctive processing style to operate without the complications of managing others' reactions. We explored how solitude enables undiluted adventures, calibrated precisely to their optimal intensity level. Perhaps most surprisingly, we uncovered the secret vulnerability time that solitude provides, space where these warriors can temporarily remove their armor, tend to their inner landscape, and renew the authentic foundation of their characteristic strength. This comprehensive understanding transforms how we perceive the Aries relationship with solitude, not as contradiction or anomaly, but as sophisticated self-care that enables their full magnificence in both independent pursuits and meaningful connections. If these insights into the mysterious Aries spirit have illuminated aspects of yourself or someone important in your life, there's much more to discover about the Zodiac's hidden dimensions. At Secret of the Zodiac, we're dedicated to revealing the deeper truths behind astrological patterns, going far beyond surface-level horoscopes to explore the profound wisdom embedded in these ancient systems. Subscribe now to continue this journey of discovery with us. Each week, we unveil new dimensions of the Zodiac signs that transform how you understand yourself and the people in your life. Hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss our latest revelations. The conversation doesn't end with this video. Share your own experiences with Aries solitude in the comments below. Do you recognize these patterns in yourself or an Aries you know? Which of these 12 reasons resonated most powerfully with your experience? Your insights contribute valuable dimensions to our collective understanding. If you found value in today's exploration, consider supporting Secret of the Zodiac through Super Thanks. This financial contribution directly supports our research, production costs, and enables us to continue delivering daily Zodiac content of exceptional depth and quality. The cosmic insights we share require significant time and resources to develop, and your support through Super Thanks makes it possible for us to maintain this level of quality while increasing our output. For those who've already subscribed and supported, explore our extensive library of Zodiac revelations. From the mysterious depths of Scorpio to the visionary heights of Aquarius, each sign contains multitudes waiting to be discovered. Our playlists organize these insights by sign, element, and specific life domains, creating a comprehensive resource for your astrological journey. The ancient wisdom of the Zodiac becomes most powerful when actively integrated into our understanding of ourselves and others. Until our next exploration, remember that the stars don't just influence us, they illuminate paths to deeper self-awareness and more meaningful connections with those whose charts intertwine with our own.